What if they lied to you? Lucifer is not the name of the devil. It's not even the name of the fallen one. It's a word ripped from scripture and wrapped in myth. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. That's how one of the Bible's most mysterious chapters begins. But in the original context, it's not about Satan. It's a message to the king of Babylon. So how did it become a symbol of ultimate evil? In Hebrew, the phrase is Helel ben Shashar, shining one, son of dawn. Later, in the Latin Vulgate, translators gave it a name, Lucifer, light bringer. And that's when the shift began. Centuries later, we call Lucifer the one whom Scripture consistently names Satan. But in the text, they are not the same. One is radiant, the other an accuser. One rises in pride, the other lives to destroy. So what's the truth? Who was really cast out of heaven? What if the story of evil didn't begin with sin, but with a mistranslation? Who is Lucifer, and where did his fall begin? To understand, we have to separate scripture from tradition. The original, not a name, but a symbol. Isaiah 14:12 says, "How you are fallen from heaven, O shining one, son of the dawn, you who brought nations down." In Hebrew, Helel ben Shachar, Helel, son of the morning. It was a message to the king of Babylon, proud, powerful, merciless. But in the Latin Vulgate, this became Lucifer. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. And from that moment, light became linked to darkness, a translation that changed history. The word Lucifer appears in the Bible only once, but it gave the world a new villain, not a king, not a metaphor, but the supposed name of a fallen angel. Later, Dante's Inferno depicted Lucifer as a beast at the center of hell. Milton's Paradise Lost made him a tragic hero, brilliant but proud. And in the collective imagination, Lucifer and Satan merged into one, forever. But what does the Bible actually say about Satan? In the Old Testament, he's not a proper name, he's a role. Satan, the accuser. In Job 1, "And Satan came among the sons of God." He wasn't cast out, he still answers to God. He tests Job, but never breaks divine boundaries. In Zechariah 3:1, "I saw Joshua the high priest, and Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord said, 'The Lord rebuke you, Satan.'" Satan is still there, in heaven, in the council. When does the fall begin? Ezekiel 28. "You were the anointed cherub who covers. You were on the holy mountain of God, perfect in your ways, from the day you were created until iniquity was found in you." This is often read as the fall of Lucifer, but in context, it's addressed to the Prince of Tyre. Still, the symbolism is undeniable. He was a guardian cherub. He walked among fiery stones. He stood in Eden. His garments sparkled with jewels. His heart grew proud because of his beauty. It's more than a fall. It's a fall from glory. The Apocrypha deepen the mystery. The Book of Enoch speaks of the Watchers, 200 angels who came down to earth and taught mankind forbidden knowledge, sorcery, weapon making, seduction. They took human women and gave birth to the Nephilim. Genesis 6:5 says, "The wickedness of man was great upon the earth." This wasn't just disobedience, it was war against the order of heaven, a secret, mystical rebellion from within the light. The climax, Revelation. Revelation 12:7-9. "And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the great dragon was cast out, that ancient serpent called the devil and Satan. He was thrown to the earth, and his angels with him. This is the moment of fusion. Satan, the serpent, the devil, Lucifer, all become one figure. From this verse on, the lines begin to blur. But what if that was the point? What if this confusion was deliberate? Lucifer, the shining one, Satan, the accuser, the serpent, the deceiver, they were merged into one villain, flawless, simple, easy to hate, no nuance, no past. But then the question changes. Not, why did he fall? But, why weren't we allowed to see who he really was? For thousands of years, Christians believed Lucifer was the devil's name. But who told them that? The Bible, not. Tradition, yes. And it wasn't a mistake, it was a strategy. In the 3rd century, the theologian Origen offered a new reading of Isaiah 14. He said, "This isn't just the king of Babylon. This is a symbol of a fallen angel." And just like that, the allegory began. His idea, elegant, but neither Isaiah nor Jewish tradition ever read it that way. A century later, Augustine took it further. He built a theology of sin as pride. The fall wasn't just rebellion, it was self-exaltation. And he said Lucifer fell because he wanted to be like God. But that teaching became the cornerstone of church doctrine. To resemble God too much, that could be a crime. Why did this matter? The 4th and 5th centuries were full of heresies, Gnostics, Manichaeans, Arians. Everyone had their own version of good and evil. The church needed to define one enemy, one legend, one evil, to protect one truth. Lucifer became the perfect symbol, radiant, majestic, proud. The higher the light, the greater the fall. He became a warning. Don't reach for the light too closely. Don't try to be too much like God. Another 1,000 years passed. 13th century. Dante wrote the Divine Comedy. At the center of hell was Lucifer, enormous, motionless, three-faced, frozen, silent, spewing darkness. He didn't burn in hell. He was its frozen core. Light turned to ice. Then came the 17th century. Milton wrote Paradise Lost. Lucifer was no longer a monster. He was tragic, intelligent, the one who declared, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." Lucifer became an archetype, not of the devil, but of a thought that wouldn't fit the system. That's how myth became doctrine. That's how one word, Lucifer, once written into the Vulgate, became a name for someone who may have never worn it. The church didn't just name evil, it relocated responsibility. From within to outside, from the system to the exile, from society to a single fallen star. This isn't a lie, it's a tool, but you have every right to ask, why didn't anyone tell us? The story of Lucifer isn't just in the Bible, it lives in the books that were cut from it. One of those books is the Book of Enoch, an ancient text still honored by the Ethiopian Church and excluded from most Christian canons. It tells a story you won't find in other sacred writings, a rebellion not of one, but of many. The Watchers, angels who descended to earth to live among humans. They saw the daughters of men and desired them. They crossed the line, and they gave humanity knowledge once reserved for heaven. Enoch 8. Azazel taught men how to make swords and shields. Arachiel to read the stars. Kazdejah, spells and enchantments. They brought metal, jewelry, medicinal roots, astronomy, magic, oaths, prophecy. But for that they were cast down, bound, chained. Their children, the Nephilim, were wiped out in the flood. Why? Because they gave away what was considered forbidden light. And here lies a parallel. Lucifer, like them, is tied to knowledge, to clarity, to defiance. Maybe he wasn't one of them, but their fate mirrors his. Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, the mighty men of old, men of renown. They were called Nephilim, the fallen ones. Their makers, the watchers, their crime, giving humanity the power to know. So what if the original sin wasn't destruction, but revelation? What if God hid the light? Not because it was evil, but because it wasn't ready for everyone. The church rejected the book of Enoch and sealed it away among the Apocrypha. But the echoes are too loud to ignore. Fallen ones who give knowledge, the blending of light and boundaries, punishment for daring too much. Today, we call these stories myth, but once, they were a key to understanding evil. Lucifer, the Watchers, Azazel, Samael, each one, not just a figure, but an archetype, the one who dares to give humanity something that doesn't fit the system's plan. And again, the question shifts. What breaks the order more, sin or knowledge? When the church says the devil, it draws an enemy. But in Jewish mysticism, it's far more complex. Samael, one of the most mysterious names in Hebrew tradition. Sometimes he's identified with Satan, other times with the angel of death, or with the one assigned by God to accuse. The Talmud says, Samael is the prince of satanic powers. He tempts, he accuses, he brings death, but all under God's command. He isn't independent. He's an instrument. He may be called the devil, but his task isn't destruction, it's exposure, to reveal where the heart bends, where it breaks, where it lies. He's not a weapon, he's a mirror. The Zohar says, he is the left hand of God, the one that punishes, the one that purifies. If the right hand gives mercy, the left gives justice, but both belong to him. Samael does not dwell in hell. He stands at the edge. He delivers the sentence, but without hatred. Tradition says it was Samael who tempted Eve, but even that was part of the design. Because without knowledge, there is no freedom, and that's the key. In Kabbalah, evil isn't God's rival. It's part of his judgment. Hard, terrifying, but still under light. Samael was never cast out. He was included. He is the antagonist, but not a rebel. So look again. Maybe Lucifer wasn't exiled for rebellion, but called to a sacred role. Maybe he is the left hand of light, the one who stares into pride and exposes it through his own fall. And if that's true, then evil is not rage. It's diagnosis. Maybe the enemy isn't a destroyer, but the one who shows you what's already falling apart. You think you know who Lucifer is. You've heard he fell, that he grew proud, that he wanted to be like God and was cast down into the abyss. But have you ever checked what Scripture actually says? Isaiah 14:12-14. How you are fallen from heaven, O shining one, son of the dawn. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High. Now be honest. What in that sounds like a crime? He doesn't threaten. He doesn't destroy. He just wants to be like God. And ask yourself, isn't that what we're all called to pursue? Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. God placed the desire for likeness into mankind. But when an angel wants the same, it becomes rebellion. If someone today said, I want to be like Christ, to draw closer, to be made perfect as he is, we'd praise them for their faith. So why is it that when one being, closer to the light than any other, desired the same. It became the fall. Maybe the issue wasn't the desire, but who expressed it. And maybe the greatest threat to the system is the one who came too close to the light and wanted to become part of it. The church fears this thought. It fears that you'll look at Lucifer and see not an enemy, but a reflection. Ezekiel 28. You were the anointed cherub who covers. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until iniquity was found in you. But what was that iniquity? Murder, betrayal, or was it a choice, a longing, a step beyond the limit? The book of Enoch says the fallen angels taught humanity. They brought metallurgy, astronomy, beauty, magic. Was that evil, or simply dangerous? They opened knowledge, the same knowledge we now use to build, to heal, to shape the world. Are these crimes or revelations? Maybe they didn't destroy the order. Maybe they just sped it up. And that's the greatest fear in theology. Book of Job. Satan stands among the sons of God. He is not exiled. He is not cursed. He is given permission. And he afflicts Job, not out of hate, but by divine instruction. He is part of heaven's order. So where's the line? When does Satan stop being a tool and become the enemy? When does the accuser turn into the embodiment of evil? Maybe there's no line. Maybe we made it up because we needed someone to blame. It's convenient, isn't it? To call anything unfamiliar, demonic, anything independent, fallen, anything free, rebellion. Maybe Lucifer was the first to ask the question, and for that, he was thrown down. And now we're told, don't question, don't search, don't think, just believe that he is evil. But what if evil isn't him? What if evil is the distortion of truth? What if the devil's mask was placed on a being that once shone beside the throne of God? And if you think this is just philosophy, remember, the devil now wears a name that once meant light. So who are we really demonizing? A fallen angel, or the memory of a glory we've been told never to reach for? For centuries, the image of Lucifer has been twisted, distorted, blurred. He became the vessel for every evil we didn't understand. A symbol, but maybe not of darkness, but of lost light. And what if evil is simply this? That you believed someone else's version of truth and never asked the question yourself? If God is all-powerful, he could have stopped the fall. He could have not created Lucifer, not given freedom to the Watchers, not placed Satan in the divine council, not let the serpent enter the garden. But he did. He gave the angel glory. He gave humanity his image. He gave choice. He gave risk. Why? Genesis 2:17. In the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. But the tree stood in the center of the garden. Knowledge was not removed. It was within reach. God gave freedom and placed temptation within its reach. That's not accident. It's design. Does that mean God wanted Lucifer to fall? Not. But he allowed it. Did he expect Satan to become an enemy? Not. But he included him in the plan. Why? Because without the possibility of falling, there is no true loyalty. Without the freedom to leave, there is no real love. If Lucifer fell by his own will, then he had one. And if he had one, it was given by God. Now look at humanity. We sin, we struggle, we seek the light, and all of it under his gaze. He doesn't stop us, he waits. Maybe the fall wasn't the failure of the system, but part of its refinement. Maybe Lucifer didn't fall because something broke, but because God allowed a crack to see what would emerge from it. John 13:27. And after the bread, Satan entered into him. Then Jesus said to him, "What you are about to do, do it quickly." That was about Judas. He betrayed. But it had to happen. Without betrayal, there would be no cross. And without the cross, no resurrection. So maybe Lucifer wasn't the antagonist, but the shadow that lets light be seen. Maybe he was the first to walk the path of falling, so the world would understand the price of freedom. And if that's true, then the greatest tragedy isn't that he fell. It's that we still don't understand why he was allowed to. Maybe you still believe that light cannot fall, that one who stood near the throne would never dare. And if he did, it could only mean evil. But haven't you ever longed for more? Haven't you tried to draw closer to God, even when you didn't know where the path would lead? Lucifer fell. That's what we're told. But no one explains that he was condemned for the very thing we call the desire to be like God. He longed for likeness. You long for salvation. He reached upward. You pray to be heard. He stepped and was cast down. You hesitate, but still seek. So what's the difference? Maybe the truth isn't in the sermons, but in the silence between verses, between the letters, in the chapters no one reads aloud anymore. And maybe the devil's mask was placed on the wrong one. Maybe the fury of hell is just the whisper of exiled light that no one thought to pray for. God gave you scripture, but you've been reading it through someone else's eyes. The church gave you a villain, but you've never seen his face. So maybe it's time to stop looking at what they show you and start asking what they've hidden. Maybe it's time to open the scriptures again, not to condemn, but to understand, not to believe blindly, but finally to see. Because maybe the truth about evil was never about the fall. Maybe it was always about the one who dared to rise.